Come on, just 5 minutes. Just come and say hello for 5 minutes. People think you're not real. They think I'm talking to no one. They think I'm living in an empty house just showing random objects to try and prove you're real. Why don't you just come? Just... Really? They're not stupid. People like my videos. They ask me to do more. They do. You'd see if you just came in and looked. Okay, I was just talking to my real wife. I'm the married atheist. I'm married to a woman who is real, and that is why I'm the married atheist. I wanted to do a little video about evolution. I wanted to cover what it is and what it isn't. So, first of all, I'm going to go through some very popular misconceptions. So a lot of the time you'll hear people say, evolution says blah 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 blah, and that's stupid and wrong. Yes, it is stupid and wrong, and what you've said is wrong, but that's not evolution. Okay, you've misrepresented evolution, either because you don't know what it is, or you're deliberately doing it. Some people deliberately do it because, you know, they have to try and discredit it because of their beliefs or whatever. So, I'll go over a few things that evolution isn't before I go... What was that? Oh, yeah. Before I do a 180 and then I tell you what it is, roughly. Only a very vague overview. Okay. The first thing is it's not just a theory, okay? This is a stupid misuse of words. Informally, the word theory means just an idea. Oh, I've got a theory about this. Now, the scientific word for that is a hypothesis. That means you've got an idea what it might be, but it hasn't been tested yet. A theory, in scientific terms, means it has been tested and it's been found beyond reasonable doubt to be true. So a scientific theory is not just a theory. It is the highest anything can get in science. So if you say that, you're either being dishonest or you don't know what the terminology means, okay? You can't just switch context from one word to the other to try and make a point. That's called an equivocation fallacy for Evie, who likes that. Yeah, big shout out to Evie for being a cool supporter of my videos, and for making wicked music, and for Alex for suggesting this video. Evolution's also, it's not one species giving birth to a completely different species that you can see is different. That is insane. No scientist in the world claims that is what happens. No one knows anything about evolution. So if you're saying that doesn't happen, you're right, it doesn't. And no one is saying it is. So you're arguing with no one. Absolutely no one, alright? Also, science isn't trying to be a competitor to a religion. There's nothing to do with it. Science has got nothing to do with religion. Science is about finding out what is true. Now, if you're doing your tax return and your figures don't add up or don't make any sense, or you've drawn little pictures instead of numbers, and the auditor comes along and says, this doesn't make sense. Don't get angry at the auditor. Leave him alone. He's got a wife and kids. Don't get angry at him. Shout at yourself. Slap yourself about. It's your fault if your stuff doesn't make sense. Don't blame the guy who's just finding out what is true, alright? Yeah. And the last thing that it's not, and this is another big misconception, it's not telling you where life came from in the first place, okay? That is called abiogenesis, and that's a totally different field of study. So if you say evolution doesn't tell you where life came from, that's correct, but it's not trying to. That's like saying, well, the theory of gravity doesn't tell me how to make a cake, does it? So it must be wrong. Yeah, but the theory of gravity isn't designed to tell you what cake is, so that's not a failing. That's your misunderstanding. So again, it might be ignorance, people don't realise these are two separate things, or they just jump between them because they want to conflate them, pretend they're the same thing when they're not. But they're not the same thing, okay? Evolution deals with life once it's already here, and then how it turns into other life, okay? Abiogenesis is how life comes about in the first place. It's two completely different things. Abiogenesis hasn't been totally solved yet. Evolution is pretty much on lockdown now, but abiogenesis, they're getting closer, but it's not quite there. But that doesn't mean, oh, they're not quite there, so I can make up wherever I want. Make up wherever I want. No, you can't make, well, you can make up wherever you want, but no one is going to take you seriously outside of your circle of people who just believe the same thing for no reason at all. Alright, so I've been through what it isn't, so what is it? So, this is just going to be a quick overview. I'm not going to go into all the scientific details, but please research it for yourself. If you've got a certain animal, as I said, we've already got an animal, we're not explaining where it came from in the first place. And it doesn't have to be a single-celled animal, just any animal, and it comes into an environment. Animals migrate over time. So say we've got an animal that it's starting to migrate into a new area, and the area is a bit different. So it's to do with how well does it adapt to the environment. And again, this is often called survival of the fittest, but it's meant to be fittest for the environment, most suitable for the environment. It doesn't necessarily mean fighting. It might do, but a lot of the time it's going to be nothing to do with fighting, being physically strong. It's going to be to do with just surviving whatever it takes to survive. Because the more things survive, the more likely they're going to breed, the more likely they're going to pass on their characteristics. So it's just to do with surviving. So if you imagine they've started to migrate into an area and all the trees are higher there, so to get to the leaves that they eat, whatever this animal is, they eat a lot of leaves probably. Yeah, they do, in fact. Then it's going to be harder to get to them. So when they have young, if any of them have got they're slightly taller, they'll have an advantage. You'll be able to get a little bit more food. It won't make a lot of difference to begin with, but it'll give them just a slight advantage. And as maybe the bottom ones get eaten more and more, there's less and less available. It'll become even more of an advantage to be taller. So offspring are based on their parents roughly. Hopefully, no one would disagree with this. That animals aren't exactly the same as their parents. Same humans, animals, anything, but they're roughly based on it. So they're that's a sort of a starter, and they move a little bit in each direction. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes a bit more, but it's not just totally random. It could be anything. It's based on the parents. So if you get something that's a little bit taller than expected, that's going to be an advantage in this situation. And anyone who's shorter, that's going to be a disadvantage. So naturally, the taller ones are going to survive better. So they're probably going to reproduce more. So that trait is going to get passed on. The average is going to go up and up. That's called natural selection. It's just like self-selecting. Whoever does well in the environment will breed more and will pass on their genes. But this happens very, very slowly. This is a big misunderstanding. Because people expect to see hundreds of thousands of years of evolution happen in 5 minutes. I want to see a frog turn into a badger. No, that doesn't happen. It will never happen. You're asking for the impossible. But that doesn't mean you've proved anything. It just means you don't even know what evolution is about. It's going to happen over loads and loads of generations. So anything that's positive for the environment, these mutations are random. They could be anything. Whether they're positive or negative depends on the environment. It could be useful. It could be detrimental. In one environment it could be useful, and another it's not. So in this case, let's say being taller is better because the leaves are higher. So over generations, it's just going to give a little bit of an advantage, a little bit more. And eventually it's going to get to the point where if you imagine hundreds of thousands of generations, this is going to become, then you'll actually see the difference. You'll have gone from something with a normal sized neck, in this situation maybe, to something that looks more like a giraffe. The giraffe is then, it's tuned to its surrounding, it's naturally honed in on the most efficient thing. Now, if the surroundings would have been different, it would have looked different. It would have ended up different. And if they change again, it might evolve again. Well, it will. Things continue to evolve. People can evolve. Humans can. Of course, they can. We're not the goal of evolution. That's another misconception that I missed out. We're not the goal of evolution. Evolution doesn't have any goals. It's just describing what happens. We just happen to turn up. Obviously, we're very clever. We're writing down the theory of evolution, and no other creature is. That's just how things worked out. We could have been completely different. If you think we're the goal of it and you don't understand what it is, it's not a guided. It's happening naturally by natural selection. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of an introduction there. Please do ask if you've got any questions, and please go and do your own research. It's important to know. If you're going to argue against it, absolutely fine, but at least understand what it is you're arguing against. I'm the married atheist. My wife's a real person. Fuck you if you don't believe me, and goodbye.